Across the globe, artificial intelligence is being framed as an economic inevitability, a relentless force swallowing human tasks. For India, this threat strikes at the core of a three-decade promise. Since the 1990s, the clearest pathway into the middle class has been a degree in STEM and an entry-level job in the IT sector. Now, large language models and coding assistants are directly targeting those exact entry-level roles. The traditional ladder of upward mobility is losing its bottom rungs. In a country with millions of young people actively searching for meaningful work, a shrinking IT sector is a massive socio-political vulnerability. But technology does not dictate outcomes. When the first industrial revolution swept through Britain, it triggered extraordinary productivity gains. Yet for nearly a century, the workers saw none of it. Wages stagnated and living conditions plummeted. The historical lesson is that massive productivity leaps do not organically spread to the masses. Unless a society makes deliberate choices, the financial gains are hoarded by a few, while the costs of transition are pushed onto the public. Our current panic over AI replacing human labor assumes a very specific economic model. It looks at the technology strictly through a Western, centralized lens. India's economic structure is completely different, and that exact difference might be the blueprint for avoiding the productivity trap altogether. To understand why, we have to look at how companies form. The Nobel-winning economist Ronald Coase explained that managing hundreds of independent, small-scale workers is expensive. Economists call these coordination costs. To reduce that friction, businesses gather everyone under one roof. Western economies fully embraced this logic. Over the last century, they evolved into massive, centralized corporations, where employees perform highly specialized, narrow tasks. When you inject artificial intelligence into that corporate environment, the goal is straightforward: improve efficiency by making those narrow tasks faster and cheaper. In a system built entirely on consolidation, AI-driven efficiency means eliminating human headcount. That makes public anxiety completely rational. India never consolidated. The economy is defined by millions of micro-enterprises, informal labor, and hybrid livelihoods. For decades, global economists viewed this fragmentation as a severe weakness. But AI and digital networks are collapsing coordination costs. Software matches buyers, sellers, and logistics instantly. Because organizing people is now frictionless, the need for centralized firms disappears. High-level efficiency emerges from the network of small actors instead. Work inside a small Indian enterprise is messy. It requires employees to adapt to daily surprises, juggle multiple roles, and rely heavily on human judgment. That type of highly varied work is incredibly difficult for an algorithm to automate, but perfectly suited for AI augmentation. The very informality that held the economy back is now optimizing India for the AI era. It is structurally primed to use technology to enhance human productivity rather than replace it. This advantage is not a guarantee. If artificial intelligence is hoarded by large tech firms and accessible only to an English-speaking elite, India will lock itself into a deeply unequal two-speed economy. Avoiding that requires strict action across three areas. First, the corporate mobility ladder needs an overhaul. Large IT and manufacturing firms must shift from using software to cut costs and instead invest heavily in training their workforce in problem-solving and adaptable judgment. Second, the country must build AI as a public good. The largest leaps in national wealth will not come from tech giants. They will come from making open, interoperable models easily available in regional languages. We already know this works. The country successfully scaled access across the entire population by building open digital public infrastructure, like the UPI payment system. When artificial intelligence runs on open public rails, it stops acting as a proprietary corporate tool. It diffuses outward into agriculture and small retail, raising the floor for the country's least productive sectors. Finally, India must enable mass entrepreneurship. AI reduces the overhead required to launch a business, allowing individuals to identify local market gaps and iterate on products without needing deep venture capital. Leaning into this model moves the burden of job creation away from a handful of vulnerable corporate giants, distributing it across millions of resilient, independent employers. India does not need to enter the arms race to build the most complex, computationally expensive large language models on Earth. It simply needs to lead the world in deploying the tools equitably. The defining economic divide of the coming century will not be between the nations that possess artificial intelligence and those that don't. It will be between the societies that allow its power to concentrate and those that actively diffuse it to empower the masses.